Lake County, 801-470-5855 in Utah County, and 801-670-5855 in Weber and North Davis County. And as Thomas Jefferson before me, I've sworn an eternal hostility against every form of tyranny over the minds of men. While I may not agree with what you say when you call in, I will always fight for your right to say it. Today, July 11th, 2011. Had a great weekend. I hope you guys did too. It's always important to remember that life is, it's got its good stuff and it's got its bad stuff, and sometimes you're the bug and sometimes you're the windshield. I woke up this morning to find my fuel pump on my truck went out. Nice $600-700 I got to pay out. Anyway, but even with all life's ups and downs, it's still great to be alive, and it's great to be here in studio talking with you guys today. I've got a show today that I am sharing with you, an intellectual, a historian, a writer, that his work is some of the most important work with regards to understanding where we are, who we are as a nation, as a people. Why are we in this situation, and who are the key players? And I'm really excited. This guy's work just, excuse me, he is absolutely amazing. We're going to be bringing him on very shortly. His name is Edwin Black. Now, Edwin Black is a writer. He's written many, many great books. Today we're going to be talking about a couple of those books, because his work kind of has an overarching theme. Today the book that we're going to be discussing, along with some other ones, is called Nazi Nexus. The Nazi Nexus. And you might want to know, you might be asking yourself, well, geez, what's the Nazi Nexus all about? You have to understand that Edwin Black, I think he's American, but of Jewish descent. Edwin Black, his parents were actually, from what I understand, survivors in Poland from some concentration camps. And so this book, Nazi Nexus, the subtitle is America's Corporate Connections to Hitler's Holocaust. This guy is really the top of the food chain when it comes to Holocaust research, and who and what and where the players are. Again, his name's Edwin Black. He's a New York Times bestseller. His books have, he's won awards for his books. I am thrilled to have him on. So we will be bringing him on shortly, in the next 10, 15 minutes or so. But he's also written some other very interesting books. The other book that I wanted to talk about with him is this book called The Transfer Agreement. I very seldom find authors and thinkers and writers that I endorse reading almost every single book, because you know me, I don't agree with anybody 100%. I never, and I hope you wouldn't either, that you are your own person, have your own ideas. But his work is so amazing, because I think it touches on things that tend to be maybe taboo in our culture, things that we don't want to talk about. So this transfer agreement, for example, he first wrote this in 1984. It was tremendously controversial, still is. However, he is now getting the accolades that he deserved after the book's been out for over 20 years. The transfer agreement, subtitled The Dramatic Story of the Pact Between the Third Reich and Jewish Palestine. And it really details out these documents, this chapter in the history of, the development of the state of Israel, and how early on there were all of these the Jews of the world were kind of doing a anti-Hitler, anti-Nazi boycott, and it really threatened to topple the Nazi regime early on. And this transfer agreement was brokered early on to release something like 60,000 innocent Jewish people from, I believe it's from Hitler's grasps, to have them come over to Palestine in order to stop that boycott. And so it's one of those real controversial areas, but I'm sorry, that's where we need to maybe spend a little time. And it was hushed over for a long time, but now, his book has received a ton of great, it's been accepted by all kinds of great Holocaust organizations trying to raise awareness. The other book that I really enjoyed of his is a more recent book. Now, the transfer agreement, I think he it was re-released in 1999, even though it was originally written in 1984. But he has a more recent book called War Against the Weak. And the subtitle is Eugenics and America's Campaign to Create a Master Race. Yeah, you read it there. Eugenics and America's Campaign to Create a Master Race. It really is fascinating work. And this Nazi Nexus, he also wrote a book that was, he was the guy to really present evidence of IBM. The big corporation IBM. Another book he wrote called IBM and the Holocaust, subtitled The Strategic Alliance Between Nazi Germany and America's Most Powerful Corporation. So I am absolutely thrilled to have a scholar and a man with gigantic cojones to speak up and speak the truth, and do so in a way that it's not one of these wacko websites or hysterical conspiracy. I mean, this guy is a true academic. His bibliography is well sourced. I mean, I'm looking at War on the Weak here, and just the notes alone, it's like over 100 pages. The little footnotes and whatnot. Instead of putting footnotes in the text, it's actually down in the very back of the page, the back of the book. It's like over 100 pages plus another 20 pages or so of bibliography. It's amazing work. So this is one of those shows that I am particularly going to be very proud of broadcasting and having you guys listen. And it might be one of those harder shows because this information, well sourced and documented, is not that well known. And that's what I'm here to do. I want to be the guy to turn you on to these new ideas. As you know, I kind of take the line that sometimes we have to go into areas that are a little uncomfortable. As long as we can remain polite and keep our wits about us as much as possible, we can learn from going into these kind of taboo areas. So I'm very thrilled to have him with us today. Now, before we get started, I want to remind you that for this month, and this month only, Mental Self-Defense has teamed up with Old Glory Mint. They're the guys that did the commemorative coin for the 2011 Legal Tender Act. The bill written by Larry Hilton and presented by Representative Brad Galvez, that basically makes silver and gold legal tender. Well, those guys over at Old Glory Mint, friends of the Legal Tender Act, friends of Mental Self-Defense Radio, well, we've teamed up to help you practice monetary self-defense. That's right. If you call up Old Glory Mint, now you got to use my name, Jake, or you will not get this deal. Tell them that you heard about the deal from Mental Self-Defense Radio. This is a better deal than you're going to find anywhere. And this is only until the end of July. Now, you need to call up Mike over at Old Glory Mint. His number, 801-232-4818 at Old Glory Mint, 801-232-4818. Ask him about the special promotional packages for Mental Self-Defense Radio listeners. You're going to get 20% off the factory direct price. That is the lowest price anywhere. Again, that's only for listeners of my show that use the referral code Jake or mention Mental Self-Defense Radio. You can get silver coins, you can get gold coins, you can get silver bars. I know Utah is very smart about being prepared for unforeseen events. You might have, some ammo stored or some handguns or some rifles or shotguns. It's always good to have that. Not only for self-defense, but for hunting. Food storage, people in this state are smart about storing food for the future. Well, if you're going to be fully prepared, you need to round out your preparation with having some monetary self-defense. I'm always pushing mental self-defense, and I want you guys to wake up to monetary self-defense. Again, call up Mike over at Old Glory Mint, 801-232-4818. Be sure to mention Mental Self-Defense Radio, and they will get you hooked up. It really will blow your mind, the packages they've got. I went and toured their mint about 2 weeks ago when we were talking about how to hook up this deal for you guys. And it's really cool, man. Anyway, give him a call. Call up Mike. Now, we're coming up on a commercial break here. So when we get Edwin Black on the phone, I am going to go in depth. I want you to feel free to call. You can always call us and ask questions and that kind of thing. But I am going to ask, because of the volatile nature of this topic, that you very much concern yourself with being polite and have kind of a succinct question in mind. I don't want a lot of ums and ahs. Let's have your thoughts gathered, because we don't have a lot of time with this guy, and I want to get as much info as we can. It's taken me a while to, and my producer Stephanie, it's taken us a while to get him. So I just want you guys to, if you can, this guy knows the deal. If you have questions about eugenics in the United States, this guy has researched it. If you have a question about the role of corporations, some of these American corporations, with regards to helping finance the Nazis, this is the man. I can't tell you how thrilled I am to have him with us. I'm going to bring him in just before the commercial break. I want to get as much possible time picking this guy's brain as we can. Mr. Black, are you with us?
Yes, I am, and thank you for having me.
Hey, thank you. I am such a huge fan of, so many of your books. You are really talking about things that seem, they're so important, or at least they're important to me, and yet they seem taboo. I mean, I can't imagine, and pardon my coarse language, but the cojones you must have to be able to really just stick your neck out and speak about these issues. And you do so in such a scholarly way, too, not like any of these, kooky people that try to talk about the same thing and maybe, discredit it. Your research is absolutely fascinating. Have you had a lot of kind of personal challenges with that in your life?
It's a duty to document with great clarity this type of collusion, injustice, and crime. Also, when you accuse a company such as IBM of consciously engaging in mass murder of 6 million Jews and millions of other Europeans, you better have your facts straight. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's really incredible stuff. Hold on, I can't control when these commercials come on. Right after the break, we're going to come back with Edwin Black talking about all his fantastic research. Come on back. K-Talk, the voice of Utah.
AM 630, K-Talk. Utah's most experienced talk radio team. Now at k-talk.com.
Is it about time to put in a new floor? Nothing compares to the quality, look, and feel of a genuine wood floor. And when it comes to quality, selection, and service, there's nobody that compares to the Wood Floor Warehouse, Utah's #1 locally owned wood floor superstore. Save up to 70% on factory direct wood flooring. Whether you're looking for professional installation or you're a do-it-yourselfer, the Wood Floor Warehouse is your answer. With any order, attend a free installation class, and your tool rental is also free. Or just leave your installation to the fine craftsmen of the Wood Floor Warehouse. The choice is yours. For the largest selection, best price, and friendly people who really value your business, drop on by to one of the Wood Floor Warehouse's 2 locations. In Salt Lake City between 4500 South and 3900 South, just west of I-15, and in Ogden at 5280 Freeway Park Drive. Check them out online, woodfloorwarehouse.com, or call toll-free 1-877-778-WOOD. That's 1-877-778-WOOD. 1-877-778-WOOD.
Hey, this is Jake the Computer Guy from PC Laptops. Turn up your radio. It's our once-a-year insane Mega Deluxe Summer Sale at PC Laptops on the best desktop and notebook computers on the planet. Remember, all PC Laptops computers come with a free lifetime service guarantee. That means if you get malware, spyware, or if your weird brother-in-law messes up your computer, you're covered forever for free. Now that's peace of mind. Have new gadgets? No problem. We'll set them up on your PC Laptops computer for free. We've got demos, scratch indents, and trade-ins for up to 50% off the original prices. Do you have an old computer you want to put down? No problem. We take any brand of computer on trade. We'll even transfer all your pictures and files to your new PC Laptops computer for free. And to make it extra sweet, we're doing 0 down, 0 interest financing for a whole year. Oishi, get into any one of our 9 locations right now. Or call us at 1-877-596-SAVE. That's 1-877-596-SAVE. Or check us out at PCLaptops.com, because at PC Laptops, we love you.
At Acme Heating and Air, we save you time and money. The state of Utah has an energy audit program that will pay you hundreds or thousands to have new energy-efficient equipment, windows, insulation, and more installed in your home. But funds are limited. So act now by calling Acme Heating and Air at 801-467-1050. With over 25 years of heating and air experience at Acme, we work extra hard to earn your trust and confidence. Plus, we pledge only drug-free employees with complete and comprehensive background checks. Right now, Acme has up to $2,000 in rebates for new furnaces and a brand new springtime AC special. Acme will chemically clean your outside AC unit and pressure check all lines and system components for just $78. Imagine that, just $78 to make sure your home and family are cool and comfy this summer. Call Acme Heating and Air today at 801-467-1050 for upfront pricing with no surprises. At Acme, if you're uncomfortable, so are we. Call today, 801-467-1050. That's 801-467-1050.
Let's be real. Smoking sucks. It's a nasty, expensive, unattractive, and thoroughly unhealthy habit. There's the acrid smell in your clothes and on your breath. Yuck. Not to mention the increased health risk that cigarette smoke presents to those nearest and dearest to you. Call Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis now for your free consultation to learn how you can quit today. 801-738-5390. That's Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis, 801-738-5390.
The Voice of Utah. AM 630 K-Talk.
K-Talk.com.
#1 for the most live, local, two-way talk.
Talk to each other. All right, welcome back. Mental Self-Defense Radio. I'm your host, Jake Shannon. I am thrilled. One of my favorite authors, writers, historians. We've been able to get him on the show, and I am just aching to pick his brain. This guy has done some tremendous work, and I just see him as a very brave guy to be able to speak clearly, but about some kind of taboo issues that just a lot of times get kind of brushed under the rug. Mr. Black, are you still with us?
Yes.
Hey, so before the break, you were talking about the fact that, if you're going to link a big company, a big corporation like IBM directly to the deaths of scores of human beings, in particular because of the Holocaust, you better have your ducks in a row, and you certainly have done that. I mean, your book IBM and the Holocaust about that subject is a bestseller, right?
Well, there's a million books in print, and of course, it's a bestseller. It was on the New York Times bestseller list for numerous weeks, and it won 2 major awards. It is in scores of people that were killed. IBM directly co-planned and co-organized with the Third Reich all 6 phases of the Holocaust that resulted in the death of 6 million Jews and countless other Europeans. They organized the identification of the Jews, the exclusion from society, the confiscation of their assets, the ghettoization, the deportation, and even the extermination of the Jews. The Auschwitz tattoo that we all know about began as an IBM number. And this information, which has been contained in, I guess, about a 600-page book, slightly shorter than that, which has been published in 14 or 15 languages in 60 or 70 countries around the world, has been in print for 10 years. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of interviews, articles, documentaries, demands for an explanation, and IBM refuses to answer. And so I can tell you right now that the station managers of K-Talk will not receive a letter tomorrow morning from IBM attorneys saying that they've been libeled or slandered.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the management will be stoked to hear that. And I have to say, the scope and the subject matter in which your writing career has spanned, from starting with the transfer agreement and going through about IBM and the Holocaust and War Against the Weak, which I found to be one of the best books ever written. I'm a bit of a nerd for the subject of eugenics. And before you, the best guy was his book. But your book, the level of scholarship is absolutely amazing. But what I find fascinating about your work is it really reveals the scope and how deep the tendrils of the Third Reich went into the world, and how it really did affect the world. One of the things that I found interesting too was about eugenics, and you had that whole chapter in War Against the Weak about how eugenics has kind of shifted, and they've just changed the terminology to be genetics now. Maybe you could just touch on that for our listeners a little.
Well, it's true that Adolf Hitler's war of hatred was quite deep, but the level of cooperation and coordination with American corporations was also quite deep. We're talking about the initial theories, which the whole concept of the international Jewish conspiracy, which was put forward by the Ford Motor Company. We're talking about the concept of the white, blue-eyed, blonde Aryan master race, which was eugenics created by Rockefeller Foundation and the Carnegie Institution.
Yeah, and the Harrimans as well, right?
And the Harriman Railroad fortune, 20, 30 years before Adolf Hitler came to power. In fact, the famous Hitler catchphrase, Rassenblut, race and blood, was not created in Berlin, but by the president of Stanford University 30 years before Hitler came to power. In fact, Rockefeller Foundation was so devoted to the concept of the master race that they funded the top Nazi doctors, top Nazi eugenicists, and the top one indeed was Otmar Verschoor, and he had a specialty in twin research, and it was his assistant, a Rockefeller Fellow, Otmar Verschoor, who went into Auschwitz to continue his research, and that assistant's name was Josef Mengele. Wow. The connections are quite deep and quite profound. Of course, eugenics was the attempt by the American elite, the progressives, to create a white master race, blonde and blue-eyed, and they wished to get rid of anyone who did not resemble themselves, and that that included Hispanics, Jews, East Europeans, South Europeans, Chinese, blacks coming out of Reconstruction, Indians off the reservation, all of this at the turn of the 20th century. And their preferred methods were gas chambers. In fact, the first legislation entered into an American state proposed for euthanasia was in 1908 in Ohio. But not being able to pass euthanasia, they undertook massive forced surgical sterilization, some 60,000 Americans in 27 states, mainly women, largely in California as the leader, were forcibly and often stealthily surgically sterilized. Marriage prohibition prevented many, many people from being married. In some states, such as Virginia, if they didn't like your marriage, your intermarriage, your racial bloodstock, they would unmarry you. Concentration camps were set up in this country. They called them colonies for the feeble-minded or for wayward children, things of that nature. They were just polite concentration camps. The entire world was put upside down, where the elites thought that the best way to create, to effect welfare for the indigent was to eliminate their existence. All of this in the first 2 or 3 decades of the 20th century. And so it was the Americans who then transferred this line of thought into Nazi Germany, financed some of the largest pseudoscientific doctors of death, Kaiser Wilhelm Institutes. Their material was read and studied by Adolf Hitler, who acknowledged them in Mein Kampf. And then Hitler basically implemented the California statutes, the American eugenic theories, with incredible ferocity and velocity, and in so doing, startled the Americans for how virulent the campaign could be. And so they were both shocked and enthusiastic, having moved from the driver's seat to the passenger seat.
But they felt, I mean, because there certainly was, with our need, whatever that may be, whether, Pearl Harbor was allowed to happen by FDR or whatnot, Day of Deceit, the author there, has raised some very interesting points about that. But regardless, whatever the reasons were, we ended up having to be aghast at how those policies of eugenics that started here in the States that went over to Germany and were implemented and taken. And because of that, basically, there was a backlash. Is that right? And so they kind of had to rebrand eugenics into what we now call genetics?
That's correct. After Normandy, after the invasion of Europe, the liberation of Europe, American forces, the Allies, sought what American eugenics had wrought as a legacy. Collective amnesia took over. And the term eugenics and the science of eugenics was reinvented as the modern science of human genetics. All the academic chairs at all the university levels changed their name from Department of Eugenics to Department of Genetics. All the various labs, including the original epicenter of all this murder and genocide at Cold Spring Harbor on Long Island, they all renamed themselves. The charities renamed themselves, but the intent was still clear in the minds of some. And so while genetics became, as we hope it has become, a benign science designed to better people, in some states, such as North Carolina, they continued the dark cause, and thousands of additional people, mainly poor women, mainly poor black women, were forcibly sterilized in North Carolina. To a large extent, we're not talking about the victims who have survived. We're talking about millions of people who were never born. And that is who my book is written for. those who have never been born.
Yeah, your work is so fascinating, and it really, the level of scholarship is like out of this world. It's one of those things that I think it's like, when you speak the truth, that you have reality on your side, and it may take a while, but reality will come back, because I know it must have been difficult to speak the truth, for example, with regards to the transfer agreement. I don't want to go too deep into that, but you were raising some points that were like, hey, guys, these documents exist. Shouldn't we maybe discuss this? Maybe you could go into that, because I know that now it's kind of come the other way, where your work has been celebrated by quite a number of organizations that try to remember the Holocaust and the victims.
Well, one of the great rescue efforts was the transfer agreement. I think it's important to understand, as I pointed out in my book, Nazi Nexus, that it isn't about trading with the enemy, as General Motors, Ford, Carnegie, IBM, and Rockefeller did. It was the enabling technologies, the pivotal technologies without which the Holocaust could not have occurred. For instance, when we get into General Motors, we have to ask, where would the Holocaust be on horseback? But it was General Motors that motorized the Third Reich. Germany had always been a font of automotive innovation in terms of engineering, but there had never been a font or a wellspring of automotive manufacturing. And it was the Detroit mass production techniques that General Motors brought over. And all of this was done consciously by General Motors through its president, Alfred Sloan. And the methodology was to set up sham corporations, front corporations, and management puppets in Germany that looked like they were running the show when it was actually being run out of New York and Detroit. And so General Motors manufactured the Blitz truck for the Blitzkrieg, and even positioned spare parts along the Polish border in the several days before the outbreak of World War II on September 1st, 1939. And General Motors became so desperate to support the Hitler regime that they even accepted payment in Christmas lights and pencils.
Wow.
And they merely resold those pencils and Christmas lights in Latin America to derive the money that they needed to send over the raw materials and other ingredients to produce the cars that they did for the Third Reich.
Yeah, what I love about your research is that it cuts right through all this, what I call the phony pro wrestling of American politics with the left and the right, and it just doesn't care about that. You just get right to the facts and great, incredible source documentation. For those who just tuned in, we're talking with Edwin Black, and he has a new book, Nazi Nexus, which is incredible. I got the advanced copy. Thank you for that. Incredible research. To be frank, I wouldn't expect anything less from you now, having read your other works. If people want to follow you, is it best just to type your name into Amazon.com, or do you have a website? What's the best way for listeners to connect with your research?
Well, anyone can follow my work at edwinblack.com.
And it's just straightforward, EDWIN, last name Black, BLACK.
Right. My most recent two books is published within a few months of each other. One was The Farhud, Roots of the Arab-Nazi Alliance and the Holocaust. And after that I published British Petroleum and the Red Line Agreement, which explains why we are addicted to oil, how we got into the Middle East, and how the modern Middle East was made. I think that when people understand that there's been a 1,400-year legacy of hate involved in the Farhud, in terms of the Arab-Jewish conflict, they'll get a brand new understanding of the narrative.
Well, stay with us, everybody. We're talking with Edwin Black. This guy is a very important voice. Come on back after the break. We're going to get some more nuggets out of him right after the break. Come on back, people.
AM 630, K-Talk. Honest talk, serious solutions.
63% of Americans are overweight. If you've decided it's time to leave your flat behind, HipFit Weight Loss is for you. HipFit changes habits. Lose the bad habits, lose the weight. HipFit is guaranteed to make your weight loss successful and has absolutely no health risks. HipFit students are not required to count calories, weigh portions, or buy specialty food. Start losing weight immediately. Call 801-635-4488. HipFit is conveniently located at Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis. Ask about our Guaranteed to Stop Smoking program. 801-635-4488.
Tune in on Sundays at 4 p.m. to learn the latest cutting-edge science of health with your hosts Hugo Rodier, MD, and Gary Olson, DC, on the Integrative Health Show sponsored by Pioneer Comprehensive Medical Clinic in Draper. Our country is suffering from poor health due to nutritional, environmental, and stress problems. Learn how to address these problems and not rely on symptomatic treatments that often have too many side effects. The Integrative Health Show, Sundays at 4 p.m. on K-Talk AM 630.
The voice of Utah. AM 630 K-Talk.
K-Talk.com.
Number one for the most live, local, two-way talk.
Mental Self-Defense Radio. I'm your host, Jake Shannon. We have with us as a very special guest, Edwin Black. He's a prolific author. We're talking about his book, Nazi Nexus, but I'm trying to pick his brain about the transfer agreement, war against the weak. This guy is probably one of my, you guys know I'm a huge book nerd. This guy is probably one of my top 5, maybe with Thomas Sawes and a couple other people, of biggest influences on my way of thinking. Are you still there, Mr. Black?
Yes, I am.
Hey, so before the break, we were touching on this kind of collusion that goes on between these big corporations and these big governments. And what I love is, again, you call out the progressives for their support of eugenics and this, as you titled it, war against the weak. But, you know, it's when we start talking about some of these corporations and collusion and money from the Nazis, I'm curious on your perspective on the Thyssen funds and Prescott Bush.
Well, I'm asked that all the time.
I'm sure you are.
I get scores of emails about that. Prescott Bush was important to the Nazi money complex. He was a collusionist and a collaborator. That is information that has been circulated around the Internet is substantially correct. I have personally vetted it, but because I am not political in my writing,
yes,
I never thought to focus on a guy called Bush because he was a relative of another guy called Bush.
Sure. Sins of the father. I'm with you on that, but I do find that it's that when we do speak of this collusion, it's important to sometimes mention some more popular names because it shows us how endemic it really is.
You can't mention a more popular name than Ford, GM, Carnegie, Rockefeller, and IBM.
True.
These are names that we live with every day. These are names that, to a large extent, are in our own basements. I'm staring at my IBM equipment now. And for people to understand that the entities which they are working with now were in conspiracy and in some cases active collusion with the Holocaust, with the killing of Americans through weaponry, through other methodologies. I think this is what's much more important. There is no question that all of the links to Prescott Bush that I have seen are fundamentally accurate. But Prescott Bush is just one dark cavern in a complex of caverns that constitute the American corporate collusion with the Nazis. His was money and, to a certain extent, manufacturing. But what IBM did, which was pivotal, was they gave the Nazis the magic of information technology, which they had a virtual 100% monopoly on. What Ford gave the Nazis that they never had before was the international Jewish conspiracy. So anti-Semitism was changed from an in-group, out-group to an actual international conspiracy where there were no good Jews. If you didn't like the chocolate chips, he said that there weren't enough chips in the chocolate in the cookies. That was a Jewish problem. The black sex was a Jewish problem. That the Jews were out to control all the militaries, the media, the monetary systems through a combination of Zionism, socialism, capitalism, Marxism, et cetera, all this came from Henry Ford, who mass-produced and mass-distributed the Protocols of the Elders of Zion. The whole concept of race supremacy in terms of eugenics allowed Adolf Hitler to medicalize his pre-existing nationalism and his pre-existing anti-Semitism and his own concepts of domination into something that was no longer racial from his point of view, but scientific. These were all fundamental. These were pivotal, and so you would have to ask yourself, where would the Holocaust be without an international Jewish conspiracy that made Adolf Hitler not only invade countries, but also, as soon as he got there, seek out the Jews first to eliminate? Where would the Holocaust be without the master race? Where would the Holocaust be on horseback? And where would the Holocaust be if Hitler didn't have the names in alphabetical order? These are all the fundamental. It's not just about trading with the enemy, because I can tell you right now that Standard Oil gave crucial petroleum support, and additive support to the Nazis. I can tell you that there was a department store in London that sold uniforms to the Nazis, but Adolf Hitler had access to other types of oil, especially Arab oil. Adolf Hitler had access to needles and threads. What was it he didn't have access to? Information technology. He didn't have access to the concepts of race science until they were given to him by Rockefeller, Carnegie, and Harriman. And of course, once the Nazis began to run out of oil as a result of their push to conquer Russia, they had to turn to one place. And where was that place? Arab oil, Arab Middle East oil, which is why the Arabs formed a broad international alliance with the Nazis.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people realize. I think it was Otto Szerzynski or whatever his name was big down in the Arab area trying to recruit Arabs to the Nazi cause.
No, it wasn't a matter of Arabs trying to recruit. It wasn't a matter of Germans trying to recruit them. We're basically talking about the Mufti of Jerusalem communicating and traveling internationally, raising entire Waffen SS divisions. An SS division has at some point almost 10,000 members. He raised 3 Waffen SS divisions of Arabs and Muslims in Europe, the Kama, the Skanderbeg, and the Hanchar division. They worked in everything from sabotage to artillery to parachuting to infantry. They were all over Yugoslavia and participated in the most heinous atrocities of World War II, a magnitude worse than Auschwitz. I'm talking about the Ustashi, which was a joint Catholic Church and Muslim coalition of murderers that were so heinous that they even astonished the Nazis back in Berlin for their brutality. And all of this.
So you're saying, though, it's not just the corporations, because we do know, for example, I think if you look into some of the Odessa research, that the Catholic Church as well had involvement with helping the Nazi cause. Fair?
Well, the Catholic Church, unfortunately, in some parts of Europe was very active, and I believe that the most active that they were was in Croatia and in the Balkans, where actual priests were running concentration camps and functioning as concentration camp guards, and where the main object of the mass murder of Greek Orthodox was to get them to convert to Catholicism and or to Islam. And I tried to put this in context, but you see, because the nexus here was oil, it still has a corporate dimension, because who controlled the oil of Iran and Iraq that Nazi Germany wanted? That was controlled by a company, a warlike oil company, called Anglo-Persian Oil Company, now known today as British Petroleum. And because Britain and the Allies needed this corporate supply, they went to war against Nazi Germany and the Arabs in the areas that were necessary, such as Iraq and Iran. I'm not saying this was the cause of World War II. I'm saying that's why the British projected their power into and invaded Iraq and Iran against the Nazis. It was over the Anglo-Persian oil deposits. And so that is what brought together two groups of people that hated each other. As you know, the Nazis looked upon the Semites, the Arabs, as just Semites,
right.
Just another group to hate. And from the Arab point of view, the Germans were just infidels. Mm-hmm. What brought them together was a common bond, and that common bond was oil. The Nazis needed it, the Arabs had it.
That's fascinating stuff. Now, Mr. Black, you know the name of my show is Mental Self-Defense Radio. One of the premises that I try to put forth about protecting your brain and who you are and your identity is, one, just an awareness of things of this nature, maybe things that are taboo or unusual or go against the status quo, but are still facts nonetheless. The second thing that I try to promote is a little more critical view of language, that how loose language or trope, figurative language, for example, how eugenics changed its branding to genetics, or how these people called themselves philanthropists, Harriman, Carnegie, Rockefeller, but in fact they were not really. I mean, you understand what I mean. It wasn't philanthropy in the sense of good for all, because they were funding again these eugenicist ideas and whatnot. So, from your perspective, I mean, you have such a depth of knowledge, experience, having researched these facts. Where are we going now? What are the things that those of us who are sympathetic to these ideas, what do we have to defend ourselves against? What, from your perspective, what can we do, the listener?
Well, I think that's an interesting question. If I had to put one word out there, since you've spoken of words, that word would be oil. I did write the full human history of oil in a book called Internal Combustion, and I have a second book out called The Plan, about what would happen in the event of an oil interruption, in which case our country is completely unprepared, including our so-called Strategic Petroleum Reserve. And my third book is British Petroleum and the Red Line Agreement, which explains how we got to where we are.
So again, if people want to further their research by looking at all the work that you've done, the incredible work, edwinblack.com. That's the best place to go?
Yes.
Man,
now,
this is fascinating stuff. So really look into...
The biggest lie we face every day, and that we have faced for decades, is oil. Now, why is this the biggest one? Well, first of all, virtually everything said about oil, energy, fuel, and transportation by the big media, by the politicians, and by big business is either a lie, a distraction, or an exaggeration. For instance, the concept that we can drill, baby, drill out of our problems. We cannot drill, baby, drill. The fact of the matter is that if we found a good, rich area to drill into now, it would take 5 to 10 years before the first barrel came out. When you want to scoop up some oil, such as spindle top in Texas, and it's just a few inches below the surface, that's going to be cheap. If you want to go hundreds of feet down, that's going to be very, very expensive. If you want to go to 10 miles below the seabed of the Gulf of Mexico, as British Petroleum did with the Deepwater Horizon, if you want to go to the middle of the North Sea, if you want to transfer that oil across mountain ranges, that is going to be very, very expensive. And so, sure, there's oil out there, but how far and how silly do we need to drill down in order to get it? On the other hand, there are numerous types of other methods of securing our mobility, which is an American liberty issue. The electric car was invented in 1835. The hydrogen fuel cell was in 1838. All the cars in the United States of America were fundamentally electric cars until the electric car was killed by Wall Street fat cats. And that was only in the years leading up to World War I. We never needed to be addicted to oil. And I'll proceed after the commercial.
Okay, Mr. Black, this is a true opportunity, guys. Come back after the break. We've got the CNN news feed, but come back after the break. We've got Edwin Black. This guy is really important. Come on back, guys.
AM 630, K-Talk. Utah's independent radio voice for 45 years.
What does local search sound like? Some sound like this. Notice the telltale sound of sluggishness. And now, the sound of search by Dex. Notice the syncopation of laptop, mobile phone, and print directory. Joining with the pulse beat of local businesses. A smattering of painters here. A timpani of tire guys there. Now, a domain of pizza makers. A brass section. A buzz of groomers. And a clattering of chefs, TV repairmen, and bakers. All joined in a cachet of sales and swelling into a great crescendo that ends in a triumphant, successful search, all conducted by you. Everything that makes your world hum is here, in the book, on the phone, or online at dexknows.com. Need it? Dex it.
Wake up without yuck in your lungs or the dark cloud of lung cancer or heart disease looming over your future. Have the energy and health you deserve by simply calling Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis at 801-738-5390. Forget what you've seen from TV and the movies. Hypnosis is powerful and natural and has been accepted by the American Medical Association since the 1950s. Our methods have proven time and again to be more effective than pills, patches, gum, and willpower for quitting smoking. If you've tried the rest, now call the best. Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis, 801-738-5390. That's Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis, 801-738-5390. Be sure to ask about our proven weight loss and natural breast enlargement programs. Visit us online at slchypnosis.com.
You're listening to Utah's first #1 talk station. K-Talk, AM 630, KTKK, Sandy, Salt Lake City. The whole truth and nothing but the truth.
CNN Radio, I'm Michelle Wright. This hour's top story, congressional lawmakers and the president continue to debate in an effort to find a working solution to raise the U.S. debt ceiling. CNN's Brianna Keeler says the deadline draws closer and daily meetings on Capitol Hill are more than just a photo op.
The constant meetings day after day and sort of holding out until the last minute, we've seen this in other negotiations. This is giving both sides an opportunity to say, you know what, we fought till the bitter end and this was the best deal that we could get. But it's certainly scary as you march toward an August 2nd deadline when the ramifications of a default would be not just here in the U.S., but also global.
Stocks on Wall Street fell sharply today. CNN's Allison Cossack reports the sell-off was triggered by fears over Italy's debt crisis.
You know, those Greek debt issues, they've been a big problem for months now, but the reality is Italy is much more important. It has a much bigger economy. It's the world's 7th largest economy. You know, a debt and banking crisis there would be more of a problem for the rest of the world than Greece's debt issues. And analysts say, you know what, investors are beginning to speculate against Italy at this point, and the worries about its debt problem spreading.
The Dow ended the day down more than 150 points. A mob attacked the U.S. Embassy compound in Damascus, Syria today. The French Foreign Ministry confirms pro-government demonstrators also tried to break into the French embassy. U.S. State Department spokesperson Victoria Nuland is commenting and condemning those attacks.
We consider that the Syrian government has not lived up to its obligations under the Vienna Convention to protect diplomatic facilities, and it's absolutely outrageous.
The U.S. is demanding compensation for the attack. And it's a heat wave, and it's hotter than the one Martha and the Vandellas sang about. Record high temps are affecting 15 states across the country. I'm Michelle Wright. For News Anytime, go to CNN.com. This is CNN Radio.
Hi, welcome to Lowe's. How can I help you?
Yes, I heard about your 5% off everyday credit offer.
That's right. Just use your Lowe's consumer credit card to get 5% off every day. Or choose special financing on purchases of $299 or more.
5% off every day? So Columbus Day?
Discover all the things you can get 5% off on.
Arbor Day?
Buy a tree, get 5% off.
St. Patrick's Day.
You'll save lots of green with 5% off.
Awesome.
Lowe's. Let's build something together. Subject to credit approval. Offers cannot be combined. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Live from Progressive. Flo here. Let's take another question.
Hi, Flo. I saved a ton of money with Progressive's discounts.
Great, but that's not really a question.
Oh, you're right. I saved a ton of money with Progressive's discounts?
Still not quite right, but you get the idea. Progressive makes it easy to save.
Right.
Discounts for safe driving, owning a home, and more. Now that's Progressive. Call or click today. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and its affiliates, Mayfield Village, Ohio. Prices vary based on how you buy. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
Mike Rowe here with Jim Twitchell, Senior Master Technician for Ford. Jim, a lot of people hear about the works and they figure it's an oil change.
No, Mike, it's not just an oil change. It'll cover everything that your car needs for a scheduled maintenance service.
Get the Works Fuel Saver package for $29.95 or less with $10 rebate, only at your Ford dealer.
What doesn't it include?
That list is probably very short.
Glove compartment, you check that.
Up to 5 quarts oil, taxes, diesel, and disposal fees extra. See participating Ford dealer or visit FordOwner.com for rebate details through 8/31/11.
Have you not filed tax returns for years? Is the IRS coming to your home or place of business? The IRS will relentlessly pursue you for unpaid taxes. I'm Patrick Cox, founder of Taxmasters. Listen, don't take on the IRS by yourself. Our former IRS agents and tax professionals have helped many good people just like you. Don't wait weeks for an appointment. Call Taxmasters right now to get started. Call 1-800-307-4310. That's 1-800-307-4310. Or go to txmstr.com.
Are you a baby boomer or an empty nester? Were you born between 1946 and 1960? If so, you are a perfect candidate for the new techniques called tooth-conserving dentistry. These new techniques help eliminate the need for root canals, crowns, or caps, even if your teeth are already damaged or have large fillings. The new techniques can even replace missing teeth without dentures, partials, or bridges. Call for a free consultation. 801-254-0835. That's 801-254-0835.
Exposing politics as pro wrestling. Welcome to Mental Self-Defense Radio and the Jake Shannon radio program. Now, here's your host, Jake Shannon.
5-1, baby. Welcome back, Mental Self-Defense Radio. I'm your host, Jake Shannon. I'm going to dispense with any of the normal pleasantries as we come back into our second hour because we are very lucky to have with us author, researcher, intellectual, academic, all-around brave guy, Edwin Black. You can find his works at his website, edwinblack.com. And actually, we had a caller come on and ask if you could stay a little bit longer, and so I'm very glad that you're taking the time to share with us your findings, your learnings, and your take on things. So thank you again, Mr. Black, for being with us and sharing so much.
If I could just continue on my thought, you asked about the most danger that we face.
Yeah, oil.
Well, Cash for Clunkers was a perfect example of a horrible program that just condemned another generation to live on oil. There isn't just one way out of our oil mess. There are many, many doors and many, many silver bullets. There's electric cars. There's natural gas cars. There's alternative fuel cars. There's hydrogen vehicles. I drove a hydrogen vehicle. There in Utah, you have many people who wish to work on natural gas vehicles. Many of them are prohibited by a senseless, expensive certification program by the federal government, which makes it impossible for a person to get their car off of oil unless they pay hundreds of thousands of dollars in certification and testing fees. So there are many, many ideas, and none of these are being employed. At the same time, the media is saying, will the latest find ease the pain at the pump? None of this far off 10-year away stuff is going to ease the pain at the pump. On top of that, people don't even understand the true cost of oil. For instance, right now I'm talking to you on a telephone call, and you think that the call is free. I've called in. I'm in Washington. You're in Utah. Now, what if I had to get on an airplane and fly into Salt Lake City, then have an armed escort to your radio station to do it in studio? Would it then be free? The true externalized cost of oil is not what we're paying at the pump. It's about $35 a gallon. And when we talk about oil leaks, we have the equivalent of an Exxon Valdez almost every year. It isn't just we're waiting for the Exxon Valdez or the Deepwater Horizon in the Gulf. Look at the spill we just had up in the Yellowstone River. There are many, many like that. Some are large and some are small. There are lots of health reasons, military reasons. Our entire independence has been compromised. Our economy has been compromised because we are kept in captivity by oil. Why are we in Libya? Because of oil. Where did Muammar Gaddafi get the money to wage war? Well, it's petrodollars. Where's Iran getting the money to build a nuclear program to try to annihilate Israel in 12 minutes in a fashion that Hitler could not do in 12 years?
Yeah, I don't see us doing humanitarian missions, quote unquote, in Darfur, and they don't have oil reserves.
We're not doing it in Darfur. We're not doing it in Yemen. We're not doing it in Syria. We're certainly not doing it in Saudi Arabia, where women can't even drive a car.
Right.
So we are by no means pursuing a humanitarian mission. I wonder if the oil in Libya would have been located in the west side of the country instead of the east side where the rebels were in Benghazi, whether or not we would have come to their aid. I'm sure the answer is no. And then when you talk about the cost of this war, it is costing us billions. Now just think about this. We launched approximately 200 Tomahawks at $2 million apiece in the first hours of the war. Now that's about $500 million. For $500 million, the federal government could just give everybody an electric car. Just give it to them. But they won't do that. And so now our problem is we're getting ready for an oil interruption. We're breaking out everywhere. Israel is being threatened with annihilation, and it's always Saturday 1st and Sunday 2nd. And all of this convulses around the concept of oil. And that is why I think that is our number. If people really want to defend themselves, they need to separate fact from fiction when it comes to oil.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who is in Italy. He lives. He went and bought some cheap, the cheap gas in Rome. It was like $8.50 a gallon. And my understanding, I have a Master of Science in what's called financial engineering, so I deal a lot, or I used to before I left that because of the corruption, banking and whatnot. But I used to deal a lot with commodities and futures and forwards, especially oil. And one thing that you mentioned that I think is something that is crucial to our economy is the petrodollar. I don't know if we're going to, if that gets yanked, I could see our entire economy just collapsing.
You mean if Iran succeeds in its efforts to replace the American dollar as the standard of currency?
Yeah, because essentially we can print as much money as we want and get that oil at a deal.
Well, we can't print as much money as we want because then our name is Germany, and we have hyperinflation in the time between the wars.
But you understand what I mean by the petrodollar, right? That
of course, I understand the petrodollar.
The advantage that gives us with regards to buying oil at a huge discount.
Yes, but by the same token, when the dollar is weak, the cost of oil goes up. So, obtaining expensive oil and having no access to it are two different things. If the Iranians do as they promise and block the Strait of Hormuz, which is 2 miles wide in each direction, and the Fifth Fleet that has been assigned to protect it, of course, is in Bahrain, which is now under siege. If they take out Abqaiq, the desulfurization plant in eastern Saudi Arabia, and Ras Tanura, the main port, the main terminal, they will immediately subtract 20% of the world's supply, 40% of the seaborne oil, and 20% of the U.S. supply. We have no plan for an oil interruption, and we only have a 57-day supply of unrefined oil in our strategic petroleum reserve. Yet the Republicans, the Democrats, the localities, and the federal government make no effort to plan. Now, did you say you had some callers?
We did, but I kind of blocked and tackled because, to be honest, I wanted just to give you room to speak. So if people want to call in, please, we've got a very, very smart man who's done incredible research. And again, none of this is stuff you're going to find on some of the other talk radio stations. I try to raise the bar here. Edwin Black is a real scholar, a real a guy who goes to the source. And again, he said it himself. And you guys know me. I am anti-political. I don't subscribe to the left-right fake fight that goes on. He is just calling them like he sees it. So if you guys want to get in, we're only going to have him here for a little while longer. His time is valuable, and to be honest, it took us a long time to get him on here. So this is a guy that I wanted to share with you. Give us a call, 801-254-5855 if you're in Salt Lake County, 801-470-5855 in Utah County, 801-670-5855 in Weber and North Davis County. Again, Edwin Black, he is the author of Nazi Nexus, War Against the Weak, the Transfer Agreement, and I'm sorry, it's escaping me. Is it internal combustion? This is the one you're talking about, oil?
Yes, internal combustion is the history of fuel and fuel, energy, and oil. And British Petroleum and the Red Line Agreement is the West Secret Pact to get Mideast oil. And then the plan is my book on what this country would do if our oil was interrupted, and we have no plan at all.
Fascinating stuff. I definitely know as soon as my show is over, I'm going to go hustle over either to Amazon. You said, are the books actually available through order at edwinblack.com?
You can get an autographed copy at edwinblack.com, and you can buy your own copy at any bookstore in the world.
Oh, stellar. We just had a caller, and they wanted to know, they didn't want to get on the air, I think they might be intimidated, but they wanted to know, what do you see coming for the U.S. economy? If, obviously nobody's expecting you to have a ball or anything, but you do have a strong grasp of the political economy. What do you see coming down the pipe in the next 5-10 years?
Bad news.
That bad, huh? Is it going to be worse? Is it going to be worse than, say, we saw in Russia with the governmental change and the destruction?
Let's hope it's not as bad as the fall of the Ottoman Empire. Wow. All empires fall.
Yes.
And they fall for and I wrote about the fall of the Ottoman Empire in my book Banking on Baghdad. And the reason that empires fall is because they become distracted, self-distracted. In the case of the Romans, they had the games. In the case of the Ottoman Empire, they had their 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week harems and orgies. In the case of the British, it was this whole concept of cricket first and defense second. The sun never sets on the British Empire. Now, in the case of America, we have been distracted. And we've been distracted by media, by electronics, and by many other factors. And I fear, because we have gone away from the essence of what makes America great, our manufacturing, our innovation, our standards, our core values, and now anything goes. I fear that we're in the process of falling. Our economy is falling. Our wherewithal is falling. It's going to be a long, long fall. I would like to ensure that it doesn't happen. The only way that I can do that is by pointing out what has happened in the past and hoping that we can race ahead of our own falling tree to get out of the way before it actually collides.
Wow. Yeah, we actually had a second off-air caller. Benjamin had the exact same question. They can certainly grasp the depth of which you understand these things. I do have Randy in Salt Lake City. Randy, you're on the air with Edwin Black. Are you there, Randy?
Yeah, it looks like you've come up with an author here that I want to look at his books because, I research a lot. I get on the Internet, and I've come to the same conclusions all by myself, that the Nazis weren't really responsible any more than these big corporate interests in America for what happened in Europe.
Well, I wouldn't say that. The Nazis were absolutely responsible. Adolf Hitler is the one to blame. The Germans are the one to blame. But
I think they were Adolf
Hitler had help.
Exactly.
And that is the point of my book.
So, Randy, what did you have a question or anything for Mr. Black?
I wanted to know if he has done any research back to where these guys come from. These families, they all seem to be, you look into their genealogy, and I think they're pretty closely related group of people. And if you can trace them back any further than, say, the Middle Ages.
Are you referring to the eugenicists? The eugenicists were of so-called Nordic stock, Northern European stock. Many of them were, which is why when the dislocations of the first decade of the 20th century occurred, they wanted to turn back the clock, and they were willing to do so through biologic controls.
Now, how far back can you trace these groups? Where do they go to?
Well, the country is only. The country. Our country isn't as old as ancient Greece. It's not as old as ancient Israel. It's not as old as ancient China. So we only have a few hundred years. And our first settlers were largely, but hardly exclusively, from Europe, and many of them were largely, until the 20th century, from Northern Europe. Eventually, millions came in the bracket years of the 20th century. Millions came in from Eastern Europe, and then, of course, we had floodgates from Asia. We took over half of Mexico as a result of the war with Mexico, and so consequently, it would be hard to try to say that they all came from one town or one family or one tavern or anything of that nature. What they did have in common, if you're speaking of eugenics, was they were white, mainly blue-eyed, mainly blonde, Nordics, and it was this concept that Hitler turned into the quest for the Aryan race.
Hey, thanks for the question, Randy. We'll come back one more break. Can you hold on, Mr. Black?
Just a few moments.
Okay,
yes,
hold on. We'll come on back. Mental Self-Defense Radio. K-Talk.
AM 630, K-Talk. When you're talking ethics, integrity, and honesty, you're talking K-Talk.
Hi, this is Night, the computer girl from PC Laptops. Have you ever been to a big box store? Everybody simply ignores you. Then, when you finally hunt down a salesperson, they ask, "Do you have an appointment?" Uh-oh. Then, after all of that brain damage, they try to sell you a rip-off extended warranty on a computer that's supposed to be good in the first place. So you take it home, and you have no clue how to get all your photos and business files transferred. You call the 1-800 number, and they say, we don't cover setup, but if you want, you can give us tons of money. Make an appointment for us to set it up. At PC Laptops, all new desktop computers come with a lifetime parts and labor warranty. Moving over to your pictures and music, spyware removal, all covered for free. No rip-off extended warranty or appointment needed. So get into any of our 9 locations right now, or call us at 1-877-596-SAVE, or check us out at PCLaptops.com, because at PC Laptops, we really love you.
Let's be real. Smoking sucks. It's a nasty, expensive, unattractive, and thoroughly unhealthy habit. There's the acrid smell in your clothes and on your breath. Yuck. Not to mention the increased health risk that cigarette smoke presents to those nearest and dearest to you. Call Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis now for your free consultation to learn how you can quit today. 801-738-5390. That's Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis, 801-738-5390.
Only one Salt Lake restaurant is #1 for their award-winning halibut and chips. The same restaurant was even voted best chowder in Utah. It's Summer Hayes Halibut and Chips and Holiday. At Summer Hayes Halibut, we have seafood Louis salads, coconut shrimp and chips, fresh crab cakes, grilled salmon, calamari, and fresh-made crab bisque, plus burgers, turkey and chicken sandwiches, smoothies, and even fried Twinkies. See the entire menu at summerhayshalibut.com. Treat yourself to the fresh taste of the best Alaskan halibut in the heart of holiday across from Macy's. Summer Hayes Halibut and Chips. For lunch and dinner, Monday through Saturday, Salt Lake's best seafood, Summer Hayes Halibut and Chips.
The voice of Utah. AM 630 K-Talk.
K-Talk.com.
#1 for the most live, local, two-way talk.
Ricky, don't lose that number. Mental Self-Defense Radio. I'm your host, Jake Shannon. We have been blessed to have with us a great writer, a great researcher, a great scholar, Edwin Black. Thank you again for being so gracious with your time today, sir.
And thank you for having me.
Yeah, if in closing I could ask you one thing, because we certainly know that there was a lot of Nazis. Your scholarship is so deep and so broad, but there's so much that revolves around the awful circumstances of the Holocaust and, of course, the Nazis' culpability. We know at the Nuremberg trials that hardly a drop in the bucket in what I understand of the people responsible actually went on trial. And then we've also been able to, because of Freedom of Information Act, we hear of these things like Operation Paperclip. Are you familiar with that?
Yes, I'm familiar with Operation Paperclip. Operation Paperclip was the effort by the Allies, largely the United States with others, to transfer the most accomplished and talented Nazi scientists and experts in many fields. Lord Werner von Braun,
yes,
father of America's space program, who was the progenitor of our space shuttle now going up, was amongst them, but there were many, many others. And they came in fields of intelligence, they came in chemistry, they came in rocketry, in all of these different endeavors.
So
that's what Operation Paperclip
yeah, exactly.
was.
And just cut and dry, and again, I am very, very grateful for the amount of time you've spent with us today. But just your quick, in a nutshell, was that good or bad? Because, it's one of those things where, sure, we don't want, the justifications, we don't want the communists to get these people. But, at the same time, it's like, were they able to somehow influence us or affect change here in the States?
You don't call in Jack the Ripper to conduct a surgery class.
So it's a bad thing. I agree.
Okay. Anyway, thank you very, very much.
Hey, thank you so much, sir. Again, anybody who wants to follow his research, please, I implore you, check out his work. It is important work. EdwinBlack.com. Thank you again so much, sir.
And thank you.
Okay, have a great day.
Bye-bye.
Wow, that was awesome. You guys don't understand how long we've been trying to get him, and he actually only committed to stay for a half hour, so we were thrilled when he decided to stay on after that long CNN feed. Again, this show is one of the shows that I am the most proud of, perhaps along with the Thomas Saw's episode. I will be doing my best to try to put this up in the archives. I know we've been having some problems. I thank you for your patience. Again, guys, check out this guy's work. Probably one of the more influential guys that you may never have heard of. His work is highly, highly respected. But the powers that be don't want you to know about it. And again, he's not some wacko conspiracy person. This guy's credentials are deep. Okay, so be sure you can go to go to k-talk.com. Look up the archives. I did have some people say that it wasn't really updated. They were looking like for the Andrew Reinhardt interview and some other ones. So we'll try to make sure all the. I will also try to make it available on mentalselfdefense.com. Again, if you go to the radio button, you can scroll through, and I'm just basically now putting on best of shows up there, not the full archives. I want you to go to k-talk.com to get the full archive, the archive versions. You can download them as MP3s. Anyway, check out the work of EdwinBlack.com. I know I'm going to be going there right after the show because the other great thing is not only can you get copies of his books, but he will autograph them. This guy's work is really amazing. The transfer agreement is probably one of the most important pieces of work about what really happened during the Holocaust. War Against the Weak is probably the best book on the eugenics movement. It really is incredible. I've actually got it here. I've got the old hardcover edition. It's like 550 pages, okay? And it's not pictures, guys. This is like, I mean, there are some cool pictures of the old documents and stuff to prove his case, but, man, stellar stuff. And I just got word that the archives are updated, so you should be able to, hopefully by the time this show is over tonight, you should be able to listen to Edwin Black again, or maybe turn your friends on to his research. Crucially important stuff. We learned some interesting things today talking to Mr. Black. We were confirmed in the evils of collusion between corporations and governments, how evil that is. Listeners of this show or readers of my book, Teocon, will understand that that's the actual origins of the Tea Party, was a protest against collusion between the British East India Company and King George III over preferential tax treatment that King George gave to the British East India Company, which then inspired the other entrepreneurs to dress up as Native Americans and dump the tea into Boston Harbor. So this collusion between governments and corporations for power is a long-standing theme in the history of America and one of the biggest points in the fight for liberty that we need to address. Asked Edwin Black about his prognosis for the future here of the United States and our economy, and he said bad. He only had one word, and there was a big, awkward pause after that because I don't think he could communicate clearly enough. Maybe the silence was the best way of how bad things are. And this is something I've been trying to wake people up to for a very long time. I try to be an optimist, but with regards to this present system, it's not looking good. We have, I was reading USA Today or one of those rags, $62 trillion in unfunded liabilities. Bad. I can agree. And he really urges people to check out oil. Now, the one book of his I don't have is this Internal Combustion, which I am going to go straight over to EdwinBlack.com, pick up a copy. His scholarship is It really is impeccable. As he said, if you're going to do something like lay at the feet of a giant corporation with tons of attorneys and all that kind of stuff, like IBM, the actual make them culpable for a lot of what happened in the Holocaust, you have to have your facts straight, because then they can't get you for slander if you're speaking the truth. The truth is defense in libel cases. So, fascinating work. Curious what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed that. If you guys did, feel free to give me a call. I'd like to know your thoughts. I mean, have you read any of his stuff before? Is this the first time you've heard about Edwin Black's work? If I was the guy to turn you on to it, it makes me happy. His work is literally, I mean, I'm not kidding you. I'm a big, I write books. I've written several books. And I'm a big nerd for having a good, strong bibliography. This guy, you look up good, strong bibliography in the dictionary, and there's a picture of Edwin Black's waving back at you, because this guy can write. And he's a very incredible historian. Our numbers here, 801-254-5855 in Salt Lake County, 801-470-5855 in Utah County, 801-670-5855 in Weber and North Davis County. Fascinating stuff. Okay, here's the thing. You read his stuff, it's fact. And this is where, people start, oh, well, that's conspiracy theory. Look, I'm not into conspiracy theories. I hate fear-mongering. That's the antithesis of what this show is about. I want this to be an upbeat show. I want you to think I'm likable, all that kind of stuff. I'm not into fear-mongering. That's some other people's shtick. However, there is a big difference between conspiracy theory and conspiracy evidence. You have to proportion your belief. This is David Hume, perhaps one of the greatest philosophers in the Western tradition. You have to proportion your beliefs to the evidence. And yes, there is evidence of conspiracies happening all the time. Now, the fact is, you have little conspiracies, you have little secrets you keep from your kids. You don't want them to know that, you're having a scotch and soda late at night, or who knows, whatever. You don't want them to watch the news, so you're keeping secrets. Everybody has secrets. The difference is the powerful, the elite, the wealthy, the generals, the politicians, they have secrets just like you and me. The difference is their secrets can affect the lives of millions and billions of people. And these are the people that can control the flow of information. I talk about in my book, Anomaly, how there's 6 media corporations that control 95% of the flow of information. And now we see, like over the weekend, this big battle now between Facebook and Google+. Well, both of them have ties to the NSA and in the case of Google, and the FBI and CIA in the case of Facebook. So again, just bigger consolidations of power. YouTube now being owned by Google. You hear YouTube videos now being censored and whatnot. So did you enjoy that show today? Did I give you the red pill like in the Matrix? This is why I do this show, to wake people up, because on my deathbed, I would feel remiss if I didn't try to do everything in my power to try to turn things around for the individuals, for the citizens of not this, I mean, of course, of America. I love America. I love liberty, but even the world, man. And the great thing is that I think the battle is largely one of education. So again, this whole show is about preparation, mental self-defense, being prepared. Look, you at home, you have food storage probably. I hope so. You at home, you have ammo to protect your family or to go hunting. I hope so. Well, you know what? Here's the other one. I mentioned it at the top of the show. You're going to need monetary self-defense too. That's why I, again, behind the scenes, brokered a deal to get you 20% off the factory direct price if you go to Old Glory Mint. You can go oldglorymint.com, check them out, but you have to call to get this huge discount that they're not offering to anybody else except listeners of this show, and they're only doing it till the end of the month. Look, if your paycheck, you don't get it for a couple days and you want to make sure that your family is protected in the future, write this number down right now. Call up Mike over at Old Glory Mint, 801-232-4818. Tell him you heard about the deal from Mental Self-Defense Radio. Drop my name. That's the only way you're going to get the discount. 20% off the factory direct prices. Call him up. Mike, 801-232-4818. Write that down. Call him when you get paid. Holding in Weber. We've got Harv, but Harv, you're on line 1. So please, if there's silence, it's me wrestling with this line 1 button. Okay, I think I got it. Harv, are you there?
Yeah, I am. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing good, buddy. Did you enjoy the show today?
Yeah, I had to call the dog pound on some poor little dog almost got killed, so I missed parts of it.
Oh, okay.
Anyways, I'm going to send a ball peen hammer up there. I'm going to get your address off the internet. That way you can use it on button number 1. Good grief.
Yeah, it's a struggle, man. So, hey, so you wanted to talk about IG Farben.
Oh, yeah, IG Farben, yeah. Don't we love them?
Another Nazi-oriented corporation.
SOBs.
Yep. So go ahead, buddy. What do you want to say?
I just wanted to say that...
Earth to Harvest.
Okay, I'm going to go look.
With me, man?
Thanks.
What's that? Hello?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right, hey, we got people listening. What do you want to say?
Okay. Yeah, they supplied the chemicals and stuff to kill them people.
Oh yeah. IG Farben is a big bad.
And, there's the myth that John Paul II was a salesman for him back in the day.
Well, we do know that there is some. We don't know how high it went up in the Roman Catholic Church, but we do know that there were some that helped aid and abet the escape of these Nazis through Odessa. We do know that.
Odessa, yeah, and the list goes on and on. Hey, you know what? I tried to analyze old Ted Bundy, try to get in his mind,
Yeah,
try to figure out why would he do this kind of thing. It's the same thing with these other guys, the big companies doing all this stuff. It's some kind of mad, crazy power grab, some kind of stuff, some kind of hazy.
What it is it's as simple as this, Harv. It's a lack of empathy. It's a lack of being able to put yourself in somebody else's shoe.
Well, I
agree
agree
lack
with
of being
that.
able
Now,
to just simply
apply
the golden rule and say, hey, you know what? Maybe this person doesn't want this death and destruction.
So they never
lowered
get taught.
on them. Sorry,
or they get taught the wrong way.
Yep.
Which one?
I'm getting lost in the conversation here, Harv, and I got 2 other callers. What else do you?
All right, man. Thanks for being there.
All right, buddy. Have a great one. Sorry, just not connected today. We've got Ed hanging out in Salt Lake City. I'm hoping this conversation is not going to go where I think it is. Ed, are you there?
You there?
Yeah. What's going on, Ed? What do you want to say?
I think Harv there needs a shot of caffeine.
Yeah,
hey, are you aware of the hundreds of people that are locked up in Europe, Australia, Canada for what's termed Holocaust denial?
Okay, so what is your point?
Why would they lock people up for an offense? Imagine if we locked people up here locally for denying the quote-unquote official story of, say, the Mormon pioneers coming over.
Yeah, I think that's silly. I think people should be able to dissent, although I do think that the Holocaust has been pretty much well documented. I don't think that's up for debate.
Well documented by who?
By the people who suffered at the hands of the Nazis.
Okay, why does World Almanac, their Jewish population in 1939 and then 1946, they're pretty close to the same. And not only that,
So, Ed, wait a minute, Ed. So you're saying, you're one of these people saying the Holocaust didn't happen? And I'm just trying to get this clear. Yes or no?
There was no organized, systematic gassing of Jews. That's the biggest lie, biggest hoax that's been perpetrated on people.
Can you substantiate that? Because it certainly seems like there's tons of... Listen, Ed, listen. I'm trying to have a nice, polite discussion. There seems to be plenty of first-hand accounts. There seems to be plenty of documentation to
how
support.
about some physical evidence? Let's talk about Treblinka. Okay, Treblinka, there was estimated to be over 800,000 people that were gassed. Okay, archaeologists have gone into Treblinka, and they can find no mass graves, no teeth, no bones, and not only that, the insecticide Zyklon B that was supposedly used is extremely dangerous, and it's almost logistically impossible to gas 6 million people in the amount of time that the Nazis were supposedly have done this.
All right, well, we'll have to agree to disagree. Come on back. We're up against a commercial. Can't control the flow of the commercials. Come on back. Mental Self-Defense Radio, K-Talk.
AM 630, K-Talk. We live where you live. We shop where you shop. Thanks for supporting the sponsors of K-Talk Radio.
63% of Americans are overweight. If you've decided it's time to leave your flat behind, HipFit Weight Loss is for you. HipFit changes habits. Lose the bad habits, lose the weight. HipFit is guaranteed to make your weight loss successful and has absolutely no health risks. HipFit students are not required to count calories, weigh portions, or buy specialty food. Start losing weight immediately. Call 801-635-4488. HipFit is conveniently located at Salt Lake City Family Hypnosis. Ask about our guaranteed to stop smoking program. 801-635-4488.
Have you ever felt that your smile is the least attractive part of your body? Did you ever dream of having a smile makeover but just couldn't afford it? If so, you are a perfect candidate for the new technique called Instant Smile Makeover. Recent advances in technology can give you straight, white teeth that will look beautiful for a lifetime without the need for braces, bleaching, drilling, or numbing. The new techniques can fix crooked teeth and make them straight in one visit. Don't be embarrassed about your smile any longer. Sometimes Mother Nature just needs a little help. Call for a free consultation. Call 801-254-0835. That's 801-254-0835.
The voice of Utah. AM 630 K-Talk.
K-Talk.com.
#1 for the most live, local, two-way talk.
Mental Self-Defense Radio. I'm your host, Jake Shannon. Excellent show today. I mean, really outstanding. A guy who's dedicated his life to doing the research. Fascinating. Edwin Black on the show. I'd highly recommend, if you're just listening to the show now, go and listen to the archives. Fascinating stuff. I mean, he really digs into the facts and into the history and pulls up the documentation. Again, I could give a crap about theorizing stuff. I'm interested in facts. And that's why, people who tell me that the Nuremberg trials didn't happen, that, you know what? These are the same people that tell you try to prove that Bigfoot doesn't exist. It's just, it really is like they have no grasp of how knowledge even works. Okay, that said, on to bigger and better. We've got Greg, who's been very patiently holding. Greg in Salt Lake City, you are on Mental Self-Defense Radio. How are you today?
You.
I'm sorry. Say that again. It cut out.
I said I'm fine. How are you?
Doing super duper. Were you able to listen to the show today?
Yeah, part of it.
Okay, great. So
I had a friend call me and say, "Hey, you got to turn it on. You got to turn it on." I didn't have it from the start. Boy, I got on now.
Well, I don't know if you have access to the internet or any of that kind of stuff, but if you do, or if your friend who called in, you can go to k-talk.com, download the archive. Today's show is certainly one of the ones that I'm the most proud of. But you wanted to mention something about what? Kaiser Aluminum, or what was that?
Kaiser Aluminum. They were another big contributor.
A corporation that was aiding, abetting the Nazi cause?
Yeah, and we have them right here in America today. And we say nothing about it.
Well, Edwin Black and myself would probably say that it has to do with, kind of who the powerful people do control the media to some extent, and that's why it's important for independent stations like K-Talk that aren't beholden and that do bring you the truth, whether people want to hear it or not. We're the guys to tell you that you got some spinach in your teeth, and that's why we've been trying to get Edwin Black on the show for a long time. This guy's research is just deep, man. And again, he's like me. He looks at politics as, he doesn't get into it. He's not political. He has no impact. It's a big shell game. So how did you hear about Kaiser Aluminum, Greg? How do you know that?
I read it someplace, but I can't remember where.
So what was the story? Is that an American company or was it a?
Oh no,
German?
It's German.
Oh well, of course, yeah.
But they, they're bigger in America than they are in Germany.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Interesting. And are they still going around?
I'm sure they are. Well, that's all I wanted to say.
Hey, thanks for the call. I hope you tune in the future, man.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, take care, Greg. Yeah, fascinating stuff. I mean, wow. I'm still trying to take it all in. I'm actually counting the minutes so I can go to edwinblack.com and go buy that internal combustion book. I am such a book nerd. I love to read and I love to do research on my own, and I share what I can through the radio and through my books. Again, I'm going to try to. This one will certainly make a best of, so it'll be up at mentalselfdefense.com. Click on the radio button. You can go in there and listen to that. But also k-talk.com. The archive should be up relatively shortly, I should hope. You might want to check back later tonight. Fascinating stuff. Fascinating stuff. Yeah, my producer was saying that because of the nature of the material and the high quality of the research that Edwin Black does, he's very cautious about the interviews he does, and he really kind of put her through the ringer a bit, like asking questions and making sure we were okay, checking us out, listening to our show and whatnot. And I guess one of his first questions was, what's your political slant? And my producer Steph was saying that he actually relaxed a bit when he heard that we were libertarian here, so that's a good thing. We don't, as a libertarian, a big L and a little L libertarian. For those of you who don't know the difference, a little L libertarian is somebody who just subscribes to the ideas of liberty, the arguments for liberty, that liberty is indeed the most important thing. That is the ability to choose, that you shouldn't be coerced into any particular choice as long as that choice doesn't, again, coerce another person. So it's kind of like if the golden rule were to have a political party, it would be the Libertarian Party. That's the little L libertarian, is somebody who just applies that. You could have little L libertarians in the Democratic Party. You could have them in the Republican Party, like a Dennis Kucinich on the Democrats or a Ron Paul on the Republicans. But what we found, low factory direct price, only for listeners of Mental Self-Defense Radio. Call up Mike over at Old Glory, 801-232-4818. For the Legal Tender Act, the act that makes, Utah's been getting all this press. If you type into your favorite search engine, Legal Tender Act of 2011 and maybe Utah, Wall Street Journal, I know a bunch of the bigger newspapers in the UK, they're all writing about this because it essentially takes us back to where we have competitive currencies, something that F.A. Hayek, one of my, is mentioning people that are big influences, Edwin Black, of course, being one of mine, Thomas Saz, S-Z-A-S-Z, it's a Hungarian name, being the other, and then F.A. Hayek is probably the third, and Rothbard, Murray Rothbard, but F.A. Hayek was really big on the idea of competing currencies, and that's what we actually have now if we get behind this Legal Tender Act, and really, again, why I'm very picky about the sponsors of this show, because I don't want to be beholden to anybody. I wanted to have people whose interests are congruent with that of the show, and Old Glory Men is one of those. So, again, like I said, give them a call. Call up Mike over at Old Glory, 801-232-4818. Just listen to the deals. It's insane. I mean, if you got food storage or ammo storage, or even if you don't, you need to get prepared. Old Glory is there to help you, and only until the end of this month. Gold prices, as you know, have been going crazy, so get them at a discount. Who knows how high it's going to go? As the economy gets worse and as economies get more and more volatile, commodity-based money becomes more and more valuable. Just saying. That's all. Yeah, man, fascinating stuff today. So if you're interested in any of these kind of things, give us a call. I try to bring you guys the very best. You guys know we did that show on books probably about a month ago now, and I love books. I know a lot of them, and I was thrilled for all the great, thrilled to hear how smart our listeners are, the suggestions they had. But this guy is just amazing. This guy's written like 8 or 10 books, and every single one is a home run. He really knocks him out of the park. And again, like I said, he doesn't care. He cuts right through all this fake Democrat, Republican, left-right nonsense. Edwin Black. You got to check him out. We got about 10 minutes left. Curious on your thoughts, not only about Edwin Black, other things. This weekend I noticed it seemed like this Google Plus. I don't know. Have you heard about this? Google Plus is like it's basically like Google freaking out because Facebook has become the most visited website or web source or whatever. And so Google said, well, we need to figure out something to do. So they created Google Plus, which it's basically Facebook, but now it's just Google's thing. So it's interesting, is Facebook now going to become like how MySpace was? Everybody's on MySpace, and then everybody jumped from there to Facebook, and now it seems like a lot of people are jumping to this Google Plus. Give us a call, 801-254-5855 in Salt Lake County, 470-5855 in Utah County, and 670-5855 in Weber and North Davis. If the line is busy, keep trying. It's been a popular show today. And again, be sure to check out the archives. This is one of the shows that I'm very, very proud of. Finally getting Edwin Black on the show. We try to get you guys great guests. This was a guy my producer, Steph, did a lot of legwork, a lot of run around trying to get him on to share his ideas. It's one thing for me just to say, oh, hey, go buy War Against the Weak. Go buy Nazi Nexus. And that's fine. Maybe you'll listen to me, and I hope that I've earned your trust. However, I don't expect it, and that's why I wanted to bring him on so you could hear him speak. I consider myself well-versed on things like that. That's how I'm able to host the show day in and day out and take random callers without really knowing what you're going to talk about. But, boy, Edwin Black is a whole other level. So I was just thrilled to be able to bring him on for you guys. We've got Martin in Salt Lake City. Are you there, Martin?
Yes, hello, yeah. I'm a little concerned about maybe some of his Mr. Black's research. My understanding is that we've got oil wells capped all over this country. We've got huge amounts of oil in this country, and the drill baby drill thing, yes, it would take 10 years if we had to drill, but we don't have to drill. We've got oil wells capped all over the place, and we've got huge reserves of oil in the Bracken oil reserve or oil well in Montana area. And so I don't know. I'm a little skeptical of his research. I'm not certain.
Hey, you're fully in your right to be, and I would suggest that you be skeptical. But what I would also suggest is that you don't just brush it under the rug, because he's one of those guys that writes something, and then 20 years later, everybody's like, oh, my God, you were totally right. I mean, that's all I'm saying, because the things he writes about, I haven't read the stuff on oil, so I can't speak to it, to be honest, but I will tell you, that's probably going to be, honestly, I'm not just blowing smoke. As soon as I get done with the show, I'm probably going to go onto his site and get his book, because I want to see what he's talking about. If his other books are an indicator, I will put my name on that if his other books are an indicator. Now, I haven't read his work on oil, so again, I can't speak to that specifically, but I will say that this guy is a research machine, and again, it's not wacko conspiracy ding dong, that kind of stuff. This guy really is a great researcher.
The thing is about the wacko conspiracy ding dong stuff, some of that actually turns out true. So I don't care what people call it. I want to know if it's true or not. I don't care if people label it wacko ding dong.
That's why I brought him on. Because, again, I could give two craps about conspiracy theory, but I am very concerned about conspiracy evidence.
Right, and there is plenty of that in some cases.
I would just recommend you read it. I mean, obviously, that's totally your prerogative, and you sound like you know a bit about the industry, so maybe you could check it out and say, hey, he's totally wrong about this, but I will say, man, you're up to the task, because this guy's taken on IBM, he's taken on progressives and conservatives, and nobody can find fault with him.
Well, I'd like to.
He's a New York Times bestseller. His book on IBM and the Holocaust has. He said it's over 1 million copies sold.
Right, but one thing I was a little concerned about, though, and I wasn't able to really, and I don't know if he had an opportunity to really to elaborate on it, but in speaking about the Middle Eastern problem, et cetera, it seemed like he was. I'm not pro-Israel. I'm not against Israel. I'm not pro-Palestinian. I'm not against it. But right now, it just seems like he was a little. I want freedom for all, and it seemed like he was a little.
He's pro-Israel. Here's the thing, and I'm only cutting you off because we got 30 seconds before the show ends. This is why you have to actually look up his stuff. He wrote a book called The Transfer Agreement, and he was vilified for 20 years by the Jewish community and the Zionists because this transfer agreement was talking about how the actual Zionists had a pact with the Third Reich, and it was inconvenient. Nobody wanted to really talk about it. He's like, I'm sorry, these documents show that the Nazis and Israel worked together. And he was vilified for years because of that. So I would highly suggest you check it out. Thanks for the call, Martin. We're out of time. Great show today. Again, check out the archives. Check out our friends at Old Glory Mint. We'll be back tomorrow. Another great show.
AM 630, K-Talk. Utah's oldest, most trusted talk station.